Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Glad you could be here. So as you can see, I'm in the middle of boxes here. I'm in the middle of moving, so I'm going to try and keep this video kind of short because I got stuff to do, you know? But I wanted to touch base and get out a video this week, as I promised I would. So today I want to do part one in a series I've been wanting to do on fantasy adaptations for TV and for movies, because there's a lot of them and I'm very excited for so many of them. So I'm going to start talking about those over the next couple of videos. So let's get right to it. The first one I want to talk about is the prequel series to Game of Thrones, or rather the two prequel series to Game of Thrones. One of them we don't know much about. It's still in the very early stages. There's one that we've had some information released on that is going to be based, at least in part, on sections from George R.R. Martin's latest history book for Westeros called Fire and Blood. So you've heard me talk about Fire and Blood before. It's been on my list of books to buy and to read. So I'm very excited for that adaptation to come about. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with it. And that means I have to read the book because I want to be prepared for whatever that turns into. Many of you have watched Game of Thrones and are familiar with how it ended. I will say that I was not that disappointed by the ending. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. And it gets a lot of hate. And I do have to say that the ending made sense, and it very well may be how George intended to end the series. Be that as it may, I'm still going to read the books. I know a lot of people have decided not to even pick up the books or not finish the series because of how the TV series ended. I would encourage you, don't do that. Still pick up the books. They are amazing books. They're so much better than the TV show ever was. But the TV show as a whole, I like how they did it. It was a good adaptation, and I am very excited to see what HBO does with the two prequel series. So stay tuned for more on that. I'll talk more about it as we get more information and once it's ready to be released. So let's move on to His Dark Materials. This is a new series premiering on HBO sometime soon. I think it comes out in November. I'm not entirely sure. But it's based on the book series by Philip Pullman. It's a YA/adult fantasy. It's usually billed as YA, young adult, but there's a lot of things that make it much more adult, just because of the topics that are handled in the series. I think it's a good series for parents to read with their young adults, just because there are a lot of themes that should probably be discussed in terms of religion and politics and philosophy, and so there is a lot of that in there, but I highly recommend the books, and I'm really excited to see what they do with the TV series. You may remember a few years back there was a movie called The Golden Compass that came out in theaters. It was based on the first book in His Dark Materials called The Golden Compass. I forget what they call it in the UK. They call it something else, but I can't remember what it is. In the US, it's The Golden Compass. The movie was not great. It was okay, but not great. I'm really excited, though, having seen the trailers and with the actors they picked to play the characters in His Dark Materials. I think we're going to get a very worthwhile adaptation. So I'm excited to see what they do with it, and I can't wait to start watching the series. I don't pay for HBO right now, but I will pick up my subscription again when His Dark Materials comes out. Oh yes, it will happen. Some way, shape, or form, I will be watching His Dark Materials. Another adaptation that I'll talk about today, and this will be the final one today, so just be forewarned. The final one I want to talk about is Dune. There have been 2 other adaptations of Frank Herbert's Dune. One was a movie back in 1984, and the movie is a lot of fun. It's a great movie by itself. It doesn't do justice to the book. It changed a lot. But it's a fun movie nonetheless. It's one of my absolute favorites. I own it. I watched it who knows how many times. It's a great movie. Great sci-fi movie, but it's not true to the books. There was a mini-series on Sci-Fi Network several years back, and that was a little bit truer to the books, truer to the story, plot lines, the way some of their technology worked. It was much truer to that. But, I mean, the cinematography wasn't great, and it just kind of dragged on in parts, and they did change a few things too. So you have to expect that with adaptations. Things are going to be changed and moved around, and Dune deserves a really good movie, modern take on that book. This movie is being divided into 2 parts. So, just to cover the first book. And I think that's a great move to make. I think that's why I like the mini-series, because they were able to incorporate a lot more of the story into the mini-series. So having the movie broken up into 2 movies, I think is a really, really good way to do it. Now, if you're not familiar with Dune and you don't know what I'm talking about, here's your answer. Dune is a classic science fiction story written by a man named Frank Herbert. There are several other books in the series, not only written by Frank Herbert, but there's a bunch that were written posthumously by his son and one other author. I think it's Kevin Anderson did a few. But, I mean, it spans who knows how many books now, probably 25, 30 books. But it takes place in a universe that initially starts off focusing on 2 main planetary systems. One is Giedi Prime, which is ruled by Baron Harkonnen and his family, and the other is Arrakis, otherwise known as Dune. It's a desert planet, and it is ruled by Duke Leto Atreides, and eventually to be passed to his son Paul Atreides. They left their homeworld of Caladan to move to Arrakis to take over the monarchy there. And there's a race of people called the Fremen. They're kind of an underground rebellious movement, rebelling against the monarchy and against the primary king over all the realms. And it's just a great story, very political, and very unique plot lines and very unique science fiction elements to it. I would say in many ways it even incorporates low fantasy into the story. It's not high fantasy, but I definitely think of this book in terms of science fantasy with very low fantasy elements. So take that for what you will. Not everybody agrees with me. Probably most people don't agree with me on that. But hey, that's what I think. So anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about these adaptations. Are you excited for them as well? Have you never heard of them? Are you like, dude, what are you talking about? I'm still confused. If you feel that way, great. Yeah, let's talk about it in the comments. Feel free to hit me up. I can't guarantee that I'll get back to your comment right away because I'm moving. So, time is of the essence here, but I will do my best. So yes, talk with me in the comments about these adaptations. I'll have more next week. And until then, make sure you click a like on this video, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so you get notifications. Even more importantly, share with your friends so they can experience my content for themselves. And finally, last but not least, remember to read more books. And I will talk to you in the next video. Bye!